Bill Baker had always considered himself a patient man. For 26 years, he had been the steady rock in his marriage to June, the father of two and a faithful provider. Their life together was something most would envy: a comfortable upper-middle-class existence, 2 kids off at prestigious colleges, and a suburban home that seemed the perfect embodiment of success. Bill had built their life brick by brick, day by day, through hard work, dedication, and most importantly, loyalty to June. But everything he thought he knew about marriage and fidelity shattered the moment June, in her matter-of-fact voice, declared, "Bill, I've accepted a date with Harry Thompson. I need something different, something more. One man can't fulfill all my needs." The words hit Bill like a freight train. June's tone was almost nonchalant, as if she were discussing dinner plans or weekend errands. But it wasn't the casualness of her words that hurt. It was the implication. His wife, his partner of over 2 decades, had made a decision about their relationship without him. She wanted to taste more, as she had so bluntly put it, and that meant stepping outside their marriage for excitement. "What are you saying, June?" Bill had asked, still recovering from the shock. His voice was calm, too calm, as though he were trying to hold on to something, anything that made sense. "I've been feeling empty since the kids left," she replied, sipping her wine with a calmness that infuriated Bill. "I need something to remind me that I'm still alive. You're a wonderful husband, Bill, but you can't give me everything I need. I want to feel desired, I want to feel danger, and Harry, he gives me that." Bill couldn't believe what he was hearing. Harry Thompson, Dirty Harry as the men at the company called him, was nothing but a loud-mouthed, arrogant jerk who made it his mission to seduce married women, bragging about his conquests at every opportunity. He had heard Harry's name before, whispered among the office staff, but never in his wildest dreams had he thought Harry would set his sights on his wife. Bill stared at June across the dining room table, his heart pounding in his chest. "You can't be serious, June. Are you really going to throw away everything we've built for a fling with a man like Harry?" June's eyes softened, but there was no trace of regret in her gaze. "I'm not throwing anything away, Bill. I still love you. I just want more." "More?" Bill's voice was dangerously quiet. "You want more than what I've given you? More than 26 years of marriage, more than raising 2 children together? What the hell does Harry Thompson give you that I don't?" "It's not about love, Bill," she said, leaning back in her chair. "It's about desire. Forbidden fruit, you know. He's something I'm not supposed to have, and that makes it thrilling. You wouldn't understand." Bill felt a surge of rage rise within him, but he tamped it down. There was no point in shouting, no point in letting his emotions control him. Instead, he smiled, a tight, controlled smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You're right, June. I wouldn't understand. But I think you're making a mistake you're going to regret." "I don't think so," she said with a shrug. "I've already made up my mind. I'm going out with Harry this Friday night. It's just one date, one night." "And what happens after?" Bill asked, his voice cold. "Do you come home and pretend everything is fine? Do you expect me to just accept this?" June sighed as though Bill was being unreasonable. "I'm not asking for your permission, Bill. I'm telling you what I'm doing. You can either accept it or we figure out something else. But I don't want to end our marriage. I just want to explore." The calmness in her voice was maddening. Bill's mind raced, but he didn't argue. He had learned over the years that fighting with June in the moment was useless. She had already made up her mind, and nothing he said now would change that. But he wasn't going to stand by and let her destroy their marriage without consequences. He wasn't going to be the only one to suffer. Friday night arrived quickly. Bill stayed away from the house while June got ready for her date. He couldn't bear to watch her prepare for another man, to see her wear the same dress she had once worn for him on their anniversary dinners. But when he returned later, the house was quiet, empty. She had already gone. Bill knew exactly where she would be, at the Hilton, the upscale hotel Harry always used for his affairs. The same hotel where he had seduced countless other wives. Bill could picture the scene in his mind, June laughing with Harry over dinner, sipping wine, touching his hand, and then slipping upstairs to their room. The thought made his stomach churn, but he wasn't going to let it destroy him. He set his alarm for 1:30 a.m., knowing she'd be back by 2. June was always punctual. Bill wanted to make sure he was wide awake when she walked through the door. He wanted her to know that he was fully aware of what she had done. At exactly 2:07 a.m., June returned, slipping through the front door quietly. Bill sat in the living room, waiting. As she stepped into the dim light, she froze, seeing him sitting there. "How was your night?" Bill asked, his voice casual. June blinked, surprised by the calmness in his tone. "It was fine," she said, hesitating. "Just fine?" Bill pressed, leaning forward. "I'd like to hear more. I'm curious. What exactly did Harry give you that I couldn't?" For a moment, June said nothing, but then she straightened her shoulders. "He's about your size," she said, as though discussing the weather. "But it wasn't about size, Bill. It was about something you could never give me. Forbidden fruit, like I said, the thrill of something dangerous. That's what I wanted, and he gave it to me." Bill clenched his jaw, fighting back the wave of anger that threatened to overtake him. "I see. And was it worth it?" June smiled faintly. "I didn't do this to hurt you, Bill. I still love you. But you're a practical man. You can understand why I needed this. One man just can't fulfill all my needs." Her words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. Bill felt something inside him snap. But instead of lashing out, he smiled, a cold, calculated smile. "I understand, June. More than you think. But you should know, your actions will have consequences." June's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "You'll see," Bill said, standing up. "I've made some plans of my own." Over the next few days, Bill quietly set his plan in motion. He wasn't going to be the faithful husband anymore. If June wanted to taste more, so would he. And he was going to make sure she felt every ounce of betrayal he had felt. His first step was simple. Gina, his secretary. She was a flirtatious, recently divorced 26-year-old, eager for attention. Bill had always kept their relationship professional, but now he saw her as an opportunity. She was beautiful, young, and most importantly, she wanted him. "Gina," Bill said one afternoon at the office, leaning against her desk, "how about drinks tonight? I could use the company." Gina's eyes lit up, her lips curling into a playful smile. "I thought you'd never ask, Mr. Baker." That night, Bill took Gina to the Hilton, the same hotel where June had spent her night with Harry. It was a deliberate choice. He wanted June to know exactly where he had been and with whom. Gina was more than willing to play along, eager to be the center of attention. But for Bill, this wasn't about pleasure. It was about revenge. As they spent the night together, Bill felt detached, almost mechanical. He didn't care about the sex. What mattered was the message it sent. June had crossed a line, and now it was his turn. When Bill returned home the next day, he didn't try to hide where he had been. In fact, he made sure June would know. As she prepared breakfast, Bill casually mentioned, "I spent the night at the Hilton. Gina sends her regards." June froze, the spatula slipping from her hand. "What?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You heard me?" Bill said, his tone calm. "I had a wonderful time. She's very accommodating. It's amazing what you can discover when you taste more." June's face paled, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Bill, you didn't." "Oh, but I did," Bill replied, his smile cruel. "And that's not all. I've arranged another date for next Friday, this time with an escort. She's quite experienced. I'll be gone until Saturday. Just thought you should know." June's hands trembled as she gripped the counter. "Bill, I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did," Bill interrupted, his voice cold. "You wanted more, June. Well, now you have it. I'm done being the faithful husband who waits at home while you explore. From now on, I'm doing the same." June's eyes filled with tears, but Bill felt no sympathy. She had made her choice, and now she would have to live with the consequences. "I never thought you were capable of this," June whispered, her voice breaking. "Neither did I," Bill said, turning to leave the kitchen. "But you taught me well. After all, one person can't fulfill all our needs, right?" As he walked away, Bill felt a cold satisfaction settle over him. He knew this wasn't the end. There would be more dates, more nights spent at the Hilton. But he no longer cared about the marriage he had once valued so deeply. The betrayal had changed him, and now he was determined to make June feel the full weight of her actions. In the end, it was June who had taught him that sometimes revenge was the only way forward. Bill's revenge plan was just beginning to unfold, and the satisfaction he felt watching June's expression crumble into despair only fueled his desire to escalate things. He had spent 26 years as a faithful husband, always playing by the rules, always being the good guy. But now everything had changed. His wife The woman he had built a life with had ripped their foundation apart with her selfish pursuit of more, and he would make sure she felt every ounce of regret. The following week, Bill decided to take things even further. The night with Gina had been the first move, but he wasn't content with just a single affair. If June wanted excitement and variety, then that's exactly what he'd give her. Only this time, he would ensure that June could never look at him the same way again. He carefully planned his next move. He had contacted a high-end escort service, not to hide his infidelity, but to make it as blatant as possible. The thrill for Bill wasn't in the secret. It was in the confrontation. He wanted June to know. He wanted her to see just how far he was willing to go, just how deeply her betrayal had cut him. Friday night came again. June, who had been unusually quiet and distant since the last confrontation, didn't ask Bill about his plans. He could sense her unease, the guilt gnawing at her. But she still refused to apologize or acknowledge the depth of the damage she had caused. Perhaps she believed he would come around, that this was just a phase, a temporary rebellion against her indiscretions. She was wrong. Bill got dressed in front of her, choosing his finest suit, the one he had worn for their last anniversary. He made sure to douse himself in cologne, knowing the scent would linger in the air long after he left. June watched him from the bed, her arms folded tightly across her chest, biting her lip. "Where are you going?" she finally asked, her voice shaky. "I told you. I have a date," Bill replied smoothly, adjusting his cufflinks without looking at her. "Another one?" she whispered, barely able to hide the disbelief in her voice. "Oh, yes," Bill said, turning to face her. "Her name is Vivian. She comes highly recommended. Apparently, she's excellent company for a night out and even better behind closed doors." June winced at his words, her face paling. She had been the one to open this door, but now that it was swinging both ways, she wasn't so sure she could handle it. "Bill, I thought we were just exploring. I didn't think this would—" "What, June? You didn't think this would what? That I'd actually do what you did? That I'd go out and find someone else to satisfy my needs because you've made it clear you can't? You wanted to taste more, didn't you? Well, so do I." June's lip quivered, and for a moment Bill almost felt a twinge of sympathy. Almost? But then he remembered her words. "One man can't fulfill all my needs." And the sympathy evaporated. "This isn't who you are, Bill," she whispered, her voice pleading now. "You're not the kind of man who—" "Oh, believe me," Bill interrupted, his tone icy. "I'm exactly the kind of man who can do this. You just never gave me a reason to." With that, he left the room, leaving June staring after him, her face a mixture of shock and sorrow. Bill didn't care. He wanted her to hurt. He wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to realize that her selfish desire for more had consequences. The night with Vivian was a calculated move. Bill wasn't particularly interested in her as a person. She was simply another tool in his revenge. Vivian was beautiful, poised, and completely professional. She knew her role, and she played it well. They spent the evening at the same hotel where June had met Harry, the same restaurant, the same room. Bill made sure every detail mirrored June's betrayal, down to the slow dance in the hotel's ballroom. As they danced, Bill's mind wandered. He wasn't thinking about Vivian or even about the night they were about to spend together. He was thinking about June, about how she had destroyed everything he thought they had. She had said she still loved him, but how could that be true? How could you love someone and still betray them so easily? The anger boiled in his chest, simmering just below the surface. When they finally returned to the room, Bill didn't rush things. He took his time, making sure to savor the moment, not because of the pleasure, but because of the message it sent. Every touch, every kiss was a reminder that he was no longer the man June thought she knew. He had changed, and there was no going back. The next morning, Bill returned home at noon, just as he had told June he would. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red from what he assumed was a night of crying. Good, he thought. She should be crying. "How was your night?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Bill shrugged, taking a seat across from her. Vivian was accommodating, he said, his tone casual. "We had dinner, danced a bit, and then spent the night together. It was nice." June flinched at his words, but she didn't respond. Instead, she stared down at the table, her hands trembling slightly. Bill, I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice cracking. I didn't mean for things to go this far, I thought. I thought we could just explore, like I said. But I didn't think it would come to this. I never wanted to hurt you like this. Bill stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Well, you did, and now we're here. June wiped at her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. I love you, Bill. I don't want to lose you. I don't want this to be the end of us. Bill leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed over his chest. You should have thought of that before you went out with Harry. You should have thought of that before you decided that one man wasn't enough for you. I was wrong, June whispered, her voice desperate now. I know I was wrong. I don't want to see anyone else. I don't want more. I just want you. Please, Bill, let's fix this. Bill's eyes narrowed as he watched her. For a moment, he almost believed her. But the damage had already been done. The trust, the foundation of their marriage, had been shattered. And no amount of pleading could change that. We'll see, June, he finally said, standing up from the table. But don't think for a second that this is over. You made your choice, and now you'll have to live with mine. One night, as he sat alone in the living room, staring at the darkened television screen, Bill realized that he had become just as hollow as June. Her betrayal had changed him, turned him into someone he didn't recognize. He had once been a man of integrity, a man who valued love and loyalty. Now he was someone who took pleasure in causing pain. And in that moment, he understood something he hadn't before. Revenge wouldn't save their marriage. It wouldn't heal the hurt or rebuild the trust. It would only destroy what little remained of the life they had built together. Bill stood up, his decision made. He walked into the bedroom where June lay sleeping, her face pale and drawn. For the first time in weeks, he felt a pang of sorrow for her, for what they had become. He sat on the edge of the bed and gently touched her hand. June stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked up at him, her expression a mix of hope and fear. Bill, she whispered. It's over, June, he said quietly. I can't do this anymore. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. She knew just as he did that their marriage was beyond saving. The betrayal, the revenge, it had all gone too far. As he stood to leave the room, Bill felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't consumed by anger or bitterness. He was simply done. And in the silence of the night, he walked away from the life he had once cherished, knowing that some wounds could never be healed.
Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. If you loved this story, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more shocking tales of family drama and Reddit gold. Want to hear another crazy story? Click the video right here. Until next time, stay curious.